I just want to remind you that you're going to crush it today.
Yo, welcome back to the lab. I'm your host, Elias Benjaloon. Join me as we dive into the science behind the hustle of badass entrepreneurs working smarter, not just harder. In every experiment, we're going to dive in on business tactics and life lessons, enjoy some hip-hop, and experience a moment of gratitude. Thank you so much for being here. Now let's win this digital revolution together. As always, we're going to kick things off with some dope music, so I'll see you in there.
I'm just asking, why got bills stacking up? Got me feeling like, why though? What's the real reason that I'm working day and night, bro? Never gonna stop till I get to the heights, though. Eyes closed on nitro, I'm a PO popping and a move, serp sipping.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Hustle Science Experiment. I've got Tom Sylvester with me today. Super excited to have you, Tom. How about you kick things off by telling us a little bit about what you're working on? I see Lifestyle Builder in the back on your shirt. Why don't you kick things off with that, and also let us know about why you got into entrepreneurship in the first place.
Absolutely. So first off, thanks for having me on here. Really excited for this, especially with the topic you have and basically just the focus that you have for the podcast. So very excited to be here. What I'm excited about and what we're working on now is, as you said, lifestyle builders. And so present day, just kind of get you guys caught up on where we're at. My wife and I actually both have been able to leave our jobs. We run 3 different businesses. Lifestyle Builders is one of them. And with Lifestyle Builders, what we basically are doing is helping entrepreneurs build their businesses in a way that actually creates freedom in their life. And the reason I say that is because a lot of people get into entrepreneurship to create freedom, but what they end up doing is actually creating another job. And not just that, it's a low-paying job that requires more hours than a traditional job and often can lead to frustration, burnout, and more of a prison than the freedom that most of us desire. And so we actually run 3 different businesses. We've got this coaching and consulting business. We also have a wine and liquor store and a real estate investment company. So not only do we have multiple businesses ourselves, we've also helped other people. So we've got to see the whole gamut of businesses starting, businesses growing. And we're really excited that now that we've been able to have success in various businesses, we get to help other people do the same.
Hell yeah, man. That is incredible. I love the journey. I remember our last conversation, and you share a lot about your story and all the struggles of like starting a business with your like romantic partner and business partner and mixing all that up. You know, we don't need to go into all that right now, but how about we kick things off? You kick things off. Tell us a little bit about like why and how you got into entrepreneurship in the first place.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, as most entrepreneurs, I've always had like side hustles. Like, you know, when I was a kid, I was like buying candy in bulk at the store and reselling it like to friends that came over at the house. You know, in college, I had was playing online poker on the side while doing homework. I would buy used books at a thrift store and then resell them on Amazon. Anything I could do just to make some money on the side. But as I was graduating college, I looked ahead. I had a computer science degree. And I didn't like what I saw in the future. You know, I didn't want to work for the next 45 years for somebody else in a cubicle. And I was really afraid of missing out on life and all the things that I wanted to do with my now wife, then girlfriend, and our eventual family. And so I did what she would say was a crazy thing. And I said, you know, we're going to retire by 35. And she's like, I don't even know what you're talking about. You'll forget about that in a week, except I didn't. So basically
Nice.
we graduated college, we were in a whole bunch of debt, and we're trying to figure out how to make this work. And so I was trying, like I would try the stock market, and then I realized I didn't have any money to invest. I tried getting into MLMs, realized that wasn't kind of my scene. I tried getting into real estate, and it seemed like everything I tried to do, my wife just shot down. And so ultimately I ended up spending about $7,500 on a real estate investment training, which ended up turning out.
How old were you when that happened?
21, 22.
Damn, $7,500 is a lot of money.
Absolutely. And well, and at that point, we were about $200,000 in debt between student loans, credit card, vehicles, mortgage. And, you know, so I saw this as kind of like a last ditch effort. I had to put it on 2 credit cards because I didn't even have one credit card that had that much money on it. And I did all of this without telling my wife about 9 months before we got married.
Oh
So,
man.
yeah. So if you want to figure out how to do it the wrong way, listen in, because I did every mistake that you could.
Holy shit. So, okay, you could skip the part of her ultimate discovery and, all of that. Go to the part where you fixed it and you guys kind of like got out of that $7,500 debt and the 200,000 plus and all of that. What was the first
Absolutely.
thing that, like, because I kind of gone through a similar path a lot of entrepreneurs have, where like you're hustling and lots of your hustles don't work, but you got to keep hustling and keep trying, otherwise nothing is going to work anyways. What was the thing that ended up working for you, and how did you find it?
Absolutely. So essentially, when I told her, you can imagine that didn't go well. And so the first thing, we had a lot of tough conversations. And what it really came down to was we both started writing out our goals, and we did that individually. And then we combined them. And what we found was that like 80% of what we wanted our lives to look like were very similar. There was a little bit that was different, which was fine. The big difference was how we thought we were going to get there. And what I had realized was I kept telling her what I wanted to do, which was start a business. I never shared with her why I wanted to do it, because I wanted our future kids to be able to have us there, us not to have to worry about a job or someone else telling us what to do. So once we figured out where we wanted to go, then we could start having really good conversations about how we were going to get there. And ironically, that led us to eventually start Lifestyle Builders, because what we found was that too many entrepreneurs, like you said, fall into this trap where we're just hustling, trying to make something work. And we don't realize that if we're in a relationship or if we have a family, we need to, align them to what we're doing and make sure that it all makes sense and it's in support of what we ultimately want our lives to look like.
Absolutely, you hit it. You hit it on, like, the nail on its head is what I'm trying to say. And because a lot of people say entrepreneurship's a lonely journey, and it can be, but it doesn't have to be. And it starts at communication for it not to be, and it starts at like realizing your why, and also realizing if your why is to build a lifestyle for you and your family, then you kind of got to work on this balancing game. And it doesn't have to be lonely at all, but you have to realize that. And if you don't, then it is going to become lonely, because people are going to start abandoning you, is what could happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and the big thing that happens too is that people think that it's lonely, but that's only if you make it that way. One of the things we always tell entrepreneurs is look for the support that you need around you, because what people don't realize is the more successful you are, the more support you need. So we have so many people around us now supporting us, helping us in different areas of business and in life.
Awesome. Yeah, that makes total sense. Dude, I love it. Let's dive into the business segment of this. You're going to be like the guest professor today of the podcast. This is the lab. So how about you kick it off? What's the lesson of today's business tactics segment?
Yeah, so I'm gonna talk to all of the newer entrepreneurs, or the ones that are on that hustle and grind cycle and haven't been able to figure it out yet. So when you get started in a business, you're initially in this phase where the problem you're trying to solve is to put the puzzle pieces together. And
Yeah.
what I mean by that is you haven't made your first set of sales yet. So what you're trying to do is to figure out who it is that you want to serve, what their major problem is that they're willing to pay for, where you can find those people, the right solution that will solve their problem, and the communication in the right way that will get them to understand the value you provide and why they should invest with you. So as I walk through that, it sounds pretty simple, but this is where so many people get stuck. And they get stuck for a couple of reasons. One, they're assuming that their solution is correct, which the majority of the time it's not. Second, they're not spending enough time actually talking to potential customers. So we had a client the other day who she ended up talking to about 40 different potential customers, to then have phone calls with 19, to then ultimately sell her first 9 clients. And
Nice.
so most people aren't willing to go and actually talk to people. They just want to hear what everyone else said. Well, I'm just going to set up a webinar and then I'm going to run Facebook ads. And they do everything they can to avoid talking to the people they want to help. So if you really spend time talking and understanding what it is those people are struggling with, it makes it so much easier, one, to put the right offer together, but two, if those people are truly struggling with a problem and you go back to them with a solution, you've already built rapport and you're going to be able to launch your first product or service with much more ease.
Absolutely, man. I love that 100% because, and I heard this a lot, which is the founders of the company, they need to get out of the office and they need to talk to people, right? Like even in college, I'm bringing up college because I see this a lot in like college classrooms. I got to give a talk at a UNLV business class one time and was talking to all the students about about their startup competition. Everybody's working on these startups and they're working on these like 25-page business plans. And I, just asking them about like, okay, well, like how many people did you talk to about this? Besides your friends and classmates and parents, like the people that you're trying to service. And then when you build your online systems, your website, you're going to know what people are talking about, how they're talking, what they're feeling, and be able to craft a website that speaks to that person. But if you're just like huddled, like like on your desk all day and just like getting tunnel vision on your product because it's your craft and it's your art, that's great. But this isn't art. This is business, and in business, you got to craft whatever you're working on in collaboration with your customers. Otherwise, you're just going to end up with something that you wasted a whole bunch of time on that doesn't fit what people want. And then, it's super frustrating. Like,
Absolutely. Yeah. And to your point, like you even brought up websites, another major challenge that we see a lot of people do is that they're focusing a lot of their time on stuff that doesn't immediately solve their problem. So people get stuck on a name for my company, a logo, a website, creating content, all of this other stuff that is good and it comes later and is very beneficial. But early on, you have one goal, and your goal is to start making sales because that's your initial validation. Until somebody is willing to pay you money, you shouldn't be focused on content or a name or anything else because none of that matters. What matters is you putting those puzzle pieces together of who you can help, what their problem is, and what they're willing to pay you money for.
Yeah.
Once you do that, you're then focused on making sure that they actually achieve success with your solution, because what that does is, one, it proves your solution, proves your product or service. Two, you get testimonials. And three, that gives you some initial money to help fund your business, because a lot of the challenge that a lot of people have is that they don't have money. So when you first do this product or service, you want to do what's called an MVP, a minimum viable product.
Yeah.
And in a lot of cases, this is very embarrassing. Like in some cases, like if someone's doing like a coaching or consulting program, this could be a simple video call platform, a free service to communicate with clients like Slack or Facebook, and then a free service for storing and sharing documents and videos. So you want to bootstrap and keep things as cheap as possible. And then once you prove out that there's a need for it, people are willing to pay, then you can start reinvesting back in. But a lot of people are spending a lot of time, money, and energy on things that don't directly help them solve that problem, which is getting paid with their first set of customers.
Absolutely, man. I love it because, I'm a stark believer of if you don't have customers, then you pretty much don't have an actual business. You just have like an idea, a hobby, anything else. You just can't call it a business because you don't have customers. So you just got to hop on the phone, go knock on doors, whatever it takes to get in front of your target customer and get in front of them, have that conversation. I love it, man. Do you want to share any examples that you've had in your personal life, like maybe launching a startup that didn't work because you didn't follow this method?
Oh yeah. I don't know if we have enough time to go through all of them.
Would you go through what?
Well, I'll tell you, it's happened multiple times for us. And even though I knew a lot of this stuff, like I think a lot of times part of what makes us successful as entrepreneurs is we're hard-headed. And I had to experience this failure several times before I really realized that, like, hey, there's a different way to do it and it's way better. So I'll tell the first time we launched our coaching business. So we had started working with entrepreneurs one-on-one because I was doing corporate consulting beforehand. So I ended up leaving that and I shifted my focus to entrepreneurs. And so when we were ready to launch a course, I said, okay, well, I've worked with some entrepreneurs, so we're going to build this course called 30 Days to Launch. And it's going to give people every day, step by step, what they need to do to launch their product or service in 30 days. So spent thousands of dollars buying fancy video equipment and lighting and green screens, created 30 days of worksheets, shot 30 days of videos, edited everything, took hundreds of hours, cost thousands of dollars. And then when I went to launch it, crickets. I couldn't find anybody to buy it. I think one guy felt bad for me and bought it at like a super discounted price. And at the end of the day, the content was solid, but I hadn't talked to any customers.
Yeah.
Nobody knew about this. And at the end, I ended up getting very frustrated and demoralized. And what's ironic is that a couple pivots and iterations later, a lot of what we do now is the same exact stuff that was in that course,
Yeah.
but we went about really understanding and talking to customers so that they knew what we had going on. We could explain the problem and the solution in a way that worked for them. And now we sell a ton more. So it wasn't that the content was bad. It was that we went about launching it in the wrong way.
Right. You could have probably, how would you tell me, how would you do it differently? How did you do it differently now in your like latest iteration or like with lifestyle builders for this launch?
Yeah. So after that, what we did was we actually got on the phone with, I think, like 75 different people. Some were people that we thought would have bought and didn't buy. Some were new people. Some were people that reached out. And we basically just had conversations like, where are you at in business? You know, what challenges are you facing? What have you tried before that hasn't worked? And we got so much information. We started to understand who else or what other programs people were investing in. We could take a look at that. We started understanding how they were explaining it. Like, so one thing that stood out was one person said, I don't need another membership. I need mentorship. And that actually became one of our early taglines. And what we made sure when we launched this course was that it wasn't just a training course with videos. People actually had access to us to guide them, because so many people will buy a course, get all excited, and never finish it. So what we do with every program now is we make sure we've taken that feedback and we make sure that every program has a coaching or a guidance component to it.
That's incredible. And do you guys do this yourself?
Absolutely.
Nice. Yeah, I guess that's one huge element that's kind of missing from a lot of online courses is the coaching, but then also the coaching from somebody that's not like another sales rep.
Yeah. And it's, like we've designed our business in a way like a smart business owner will figure out where they're an expert and consistently work on getting everything else off their plate. So part of the reason that we can coach is because we've delegated all the other parts that we aren't critical for.
Nice.
And we can then spend our time where we provide the most value, which is directly coaching, helping entrepreneurs with strategy, all of that type of stuff.
Dude, that's awesome. Sweet. Thank you so much, Tom, on that lesson on the importance of like product market fit and why you're going to fail if you haven't talked to customers to get there. Let's go into our moment of gratitude. This is just about sharing what you're appreciative of. I feel like there's a lot of, wants and like, I want this, or like external affirmation, like external validation needed, especially in the entrepreneurial space where people are posting photos of Lambos as if that has anything to do with building a 7-figure company. But whatever, digressing, what are you particularly grateful for today?
Yeah, so two things stand out. The first one is my wife, because we've been through ups and downs together. We've like had really good times in business and life, and we've had big challenges. And, we've been married like 10 years. We've been together for almost 17. So regardless of what's happened, like she's always been there for me and I've always been there for her, which is just huge, because what so many people don't realize is you can hustle and you can try to make business work all day, but if you're neglecting your life and the important pieces of that, you might build a successful business, but you might not have a life or a family to come back to. Yeah. And second thing I'm grateful for is just all the challenges that I've been through. So people are always asking me like, if you could go back and do it different, like what would you do different? And I really tell them like nothing. I could give you some guidance, but all the challenges and all the missteps along the way forced me to grow, forced me to overcome, and got me to this point today. So if you take like for a long time, I thought my job was to prevent people from having challenges. And then I realized the errors of my ways that I was actually sabotaging them because I wasn't letting them face the challenge and then coaching them to overcome it. And once I made that shift, it was like, okay, now I'm actually leading people, not like trying to save them and actually hurting them along the way.
That's such a super major like mindset change in how you'd be coaching. Yeah, that's pretty incredible, dude. I love it. I can definitely feel for that appreciation, for that gratitude, for that moment of gratitude. Not a lot of young entrepreneurs that I met that are married, but my wife and I, we married pretty young, and we've been going through this tumultuous journey that has been less tumultuous as we figured out how to communicate with each other and work together, and um, like live a more balanced lifestyle, most importantly, because fuck the business at the end of the day if you don't have your family. um
Absolutely.
cool, dude, thank you. Let's go into this life lesson segment, bro. I know there's probably a whole bunch of different things that you could pick out right now. What is one particular life lesson that you would like to share today?
Yeah. So it's really figure out what's important to you and then make sure you prioritize that above all else. And so what I really mean by that is so often as entrepreneurs, we get caught up and we get excited in our business. And one of my early coaching clients, actually, uh, he was $40,000 in debt, in credit card debt, when I first started working with him. And over the course of about 18 months, we went from $40,000 in credit card debt to over $1 million in sales. And
Nice.
so this was incredible. And for me, shifting from corporate clients to entrepreneurs, this like felt like a really good win. He was able to move his family from Florida to Barcelona. Like all these good things happened. And so we ended up our coaching relationship. He was good. And a couple of months later, he reaches out to me frantically. And he's like, Tom, I got to chat. I don't know what to do. I'm like, all right, what's going on, man? I'm sure we'll solve it. And he's like, well, my wife left me and she went back to the US with the kids. And so that was like a punch in the gut. And, I took some time to talk to Ariana and I was like, what do we do here? I said, I saw signs that this guy was putting his work in front of his, personal life and marriage. And I tried to help a little bit, but it's really bothering me that we helped this guy succeed in business, but his life fell apart. And so we took a lot of time to reflect. And that was ultimately where Lifestyle Builders came from, because we said, you know what? We're not just going to help entrepreneurs build businesses. We're going to make sure that they're building them in support of their ideal life. And so that shifted our whole philosophy on how we coach people. And now the very first thing we do with people is, if they're in a relationship, we have them get together with their significant other, and we have them fill out what we call the life planner. It's a 2-page document that helps you figure out where you want to be in the future, what you want your life to look like, and basically gives you a roadmap to get there. And so I bring all of this back together by basically saying, when you figure out what's important in your life and you prioritize that first, what you then do is you structure everything else to fit in and support that. So when we plan out like our week or our year, the first thing we do is say, where are we spending time together? Where are we spending time with our kids? Where are we spending time with our hobbies? And we literally schedule all those things on the calendar. And then what we do is say, okay, now everything else that we got to do, or all the business stuff, how do we fit that in so that it all works and it's really focusing on us first?
Awesome. Awesome, man. I love that. So definitely like, and when you say like prioritize, I think, to what's really important is it's not prioritizing on one thing. It's like prioritizing on the set of things that are important. And yeah, that's definitely major. What would be like your top 5 or 6? They're kind of the same for most people who understand this, but what would your set be?
Like top priorities?
Yeah, like general, like, to maintain like a balanced life, like what are the things that are on your like top priorities list that you don't do anything that goes against that, right?
Yeah. I mean, it like for us, it really all comes down to our family. So I make sure I spend time with myself, for myself. My wife and I, one of the first things we did last year was our theme was to put ourselves first. And so we each have personal time. I take time in the morning to work out, to meditate, to learn, to spend time with my kids. And then one thing, like actually, this will be a really good thing to call out. Last year, my wife and I actually started going to a marriage counselor. And so initially, everyone around us was like, oh my gosh, are you guys okay? Like, are things going on?
So much
And
taboo around marriage counseling.
exactly. And, the first session we had, our marriage counselor was like, you know what? you guys are doing this right. She's like, you guys have a great relationship. You obviously have a lot going on, and you're working on making this better. She goes, what happens with most people is they let things get so bad and it goes on for so many years that trying to solve that is challenging. She's like, you guys have a good relationship and you're investing time, money, and energy into it to make it great. And that's exactly the approach we take. And that's what we tell people, like, what's important to you, invest in. Invest your time, invest your money, invest your energy. So if you want to build a business, what are you going to do? You're going to invest in learning. You're going to invest in a coach. You're going to invest in tools and stuff to do that. If your marriage is a priority, if your family is a priority, you should be doing the same amount, if not more, investing into that. Because at the end of the day, your business may come or go, but hopefully you want your family to always be there.
Right.
And if that's the case, put them first, and then everything else you'll figure out.
Awesome. Tom, man, thank you so much. Both of those topics were super major value bombs. I hope a lot of people who are listening in on this that need to hear it. And I think especially early entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs, like these are two like really important lessons to get down earlier than later in your business and in your general life. So, bro, I want to pass the floor to you, give you a space to plug. Tell us what you're working on and how people can get in touch with you or work with you.
Absolutely. So very excited. We actually just got physical copies of our upcoming book, Lifestyle Builders, Build Your Business, Quit Your Job, and Live Your Ideal Life.
Love it.
And basically, this is the culmination of our last 12 years as entrepreneurs, as working with entrepreneurs. And it's basically the process that we take all of our clients through. And, it's basically figure out what you want your life to look like, get your finances in order, validate your business, set it up to scale, leave your job, and then make sure that you're doing all of that in support of your life. So very excited to have that out. If people are interested in pre-ordering it or checking it out, you can go to lifestylebuildersbook.com.
Hell yeah, man. Awesome. I will definitely drop the link there. Dude, thank you so much for your time and for all those knowledge bombs. I hope it definitely has brought a lot of value to my audience and a good reminder to me on a couple things. So love it.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me on, man.
Why I got the struggle? Earth is no more, won't you burn it, small fucker? Earth is no more, won't you burn it, small? Earth is no more, won't you burn it, small? Why God? Why God? Earth is no more, won't you burn it, small fucker? Earth is no more, won't you burn it, small? Bright and hot, yeah. That's the temperature I like. Rocks and shade, trees surrounding me. The sound of waves, humidity on my knees. I'm on a rampage, it's like 80 degrees. I can't wait for the summer, turn it up, ay. I can't wait for the summer, turn it up, ay. I can't wait for the summer. I went through 4 summers, no AC. I'm just asking, why got bills stacking up? Got me feeling like, why though? What's the real reason that I'm working day and night, bro? Never gonna stop till I get to the heights, though. Eyes closed on nitro, I'm a PO popping animal. Serp sipping, serp sipping, serp sipping. I'm so high you couldn't reach me with a fucking antenna. Couldn't reach me with a fucking antenna. Star power, what can I do in an hour more than you? What move should I make? Should I give or should I take? Will it cut my flesh, my bones to break? Feeling like an animal, cannibal, so I eat me a steak. Why God? I got the struggle. Earth is no more, nothing is sacred anymore. Earth is no more, nothing is sacred anymore. Earth is no more, burn it, small fucker. What's the real reason that I got to struggle? You only go through problems to develop muscle. Be stronger than a whale, tussle with a bear, mammalian skin. My DNA touching my center, I am a winner. Master splinter, gardener in the winter. My girl's birthday in December, preparing the supper. Don't forget the Tupper silverware. Everything cross my T's, dot my I's, cross my heart, hope to die. And if I lie, I'm lying to myself. Serp sipping, serp sipping, serp. I'm a peel popping animal. Serp sipping, so how you couldn't reach me with a fucking satellite?